Welcome back to week 10 of the Gambling Show. I'm here with Yanni. How's it going, man?
What's up, dude?
Outstanding week for a litany of different
Yo.
reasons. Got some good football last night between the Bengals and the Ravens. That was a great matchup. Excited to give you guys the picks this week, but let's start with our week 9 recap. And I'll go first. So I missed my first two. The Saints -7 was my first pick last week. Not only did the Saints not cover, they outright lost to the Panthers and Bryce Young. Um, Bryce Young, tip your cap to him. He played not pretty well, but better than I ever thought Bryce Young could play. In something that I'm learning over picking games this year that I think I probably need to pay more attention to is I think there's a certain class of team that never deserves to be favored by more than 3 points in any given week. And the Saints were one of those teams, and they are one of those teams. Seven was entirely many points to kind of give away picking the Saints there. It was a mistake on my end. It's just 1L though, right? It is what it is. Next one was the Cowboys +3. That was another loss of mine. This one felt over from the very beginning. I kind of thought that I might be getting just the better team here out of the Cowboys and Falcons. That was not the case. Drake London went out in the first quarter. Did not matter. The Falcons were driving the entire time. Dak's hamstring came off of the bone later in the game, so Cooper Rush came in, but even if Dak was in there, it did not matter. The Cowboys were thoroughly outplayed, thoroughly outmatched. They kind of got dog walked by the Falcons offense. Chalk that one up as another L. The Redskins, I'll say for Yanni because he's the bigger Jaden Daniels fan of the two of us. The Rams -1.5. This was an interesting one, right? The Rams kind of controlled the majority of this game. They went into half leading 13-3, and the Seahawks, they looked really bad for the majority of the game, but they had just a couple of drives where they looked really good. Usually it was within the last 4 minutes of a half, right? Jackson Smith-Njigba had a career game. Geno Smith threw three interceptions, two of them in the red zone. One of them was a 103-yard pick six that the Rams got picked off and brought the other way. So really, I don't know. It almost felt like the Rams should have lost that one, but they got into overtime. They stopped Kenneth Walker on 4th and 1 in their own territory, and then Matt Stafford hit, I believe it was Demarcus Robinson on a just huge bomb, one-handed catch. It was a great win. I'm not going to right or wrong side you on this one. It felt like it was a heavily contested game, and both teams screwed up in certain points. It probably didn't help that Puka was out and he got tossed out in the first quarter for punching a guy in the face. Soft call. It is what it is. We got out of there with a W. Take those. Then the Lions -2.5. This was another one of me and Yanni's consensus picks. This one didn't feel like there was a doubt. I believe the first drive of the game, the Packers just went down and got a field goal, and then we saw the Lions' first possession where they were just beating the shit out of the Packers' defensive line with Monty running 5 or 6 yards at a time. And I texted Yanni on Sunday, maybe like 3 minutes into the game, and I was like, "Yeah, I don't even care what happens here. We had the right side of this bet." Just because the land acquisition was going very well for the Lions. That even though it was bad weather game, right? Jared Goff is typically not good in bad weather games. Didn't matter. They boat raced the Packers, got a couple of key interceptions. Love made the mistakes. It was just a short number. That was not a sweat. It was over by halftime. So it was a 3-2 week for me. It was my first week in the red since week 3, which is probably one of my best runs. Sad to see it end, but I still went over 500 on the week, so I'll take that win, I guess. My profit loss went down to $603.93, so I'm still 6 units in the green, which is good enough. Season record climbed to 26-19, but just looking to keep that up and keep moving. I'm actually further ahead in terms of my record and profit loss than I was last year, and it almost felt like last year at points I was doing better at gambling. So I don't know. Maybe the more you do it, the better you get. Who knows?
Yeah, so I am on a 3-week cold streak. It's been rough, man. I think I've swung 6.8 units or like 6.5 units in the last 3 weeks. So that's been cool. Went from like a 60% hit rate to I don't know where I'm at, like 55% this year. Bummed about it. But I try to be fair, right? When I go over my weeks, I have said like maybe 5 times, 4 times this year, I think I got pretty lucky on that pick. Last week was the first time all year I said I think I got really unlucky on a couple missed picks. I'm bitching out again. I'm saying it again. I think I got really unlucky with the Eagles and the Bills picks this week. I was salty about that, man. The the one I'm going to take total accountability for, I'll save for last. That's going to be the Browns, and I'll tell you why. That was a horrific call. But for the Bills and the Eagles, the Bills had that really weird. I don't like Keon Coleman as a player. Like him as a person. He's a really like outgoing, interesting person, but I've never really liked him as a player. And he absolutely screwed me on that ball on the 1 yard line when he popped it up to Jalen Ramsey. Turns out that they won by 3. That touchdown, I believe Miami scored a touchdown on that drive where they got the pick on the 1 yard line. So it's, or they made, actually, they kicked a field goal. So it was a 10-point swing on that one play. That's just really tough. The Eagles, I believe, were up either 22-7 or 22-0 on the Jags in the mid-third quarter. And Saquon had that really weird fumble that I don't think was a fumble. It looked like he was touched down, but he wasn't ruled down on the replay. I don't know how that wasn't conclusive. And then from there, the Jaguars snuck in on the backdoor cover. I don't really feel bad about either of those. I think I had the right side of both of those. I just think the ball didn't break my way on that, which you're going to win bets when you get lucky. You're going to lose bets when you get unlucky. It's certainly not an excuse. You still take your L. I don't regret my process there. The one that I was like laughing about this all week. I was thinking about this while I was driving around today, actually. The one that I was laughing about was the Browns, because what I should have come out and said was, I really want the great story of Jameis Winston coming back as an NFL quarterback because he's so like interesting or whatever. And you can't pick games like that. I think I literally bet that because I wanted the great story to come home, and like I wanted to be like, I've won money for I've not won money. I lost money the last week, and then I trusted Jameis this week and won money on him. Instead, I've just lost money on the Browns 2 weeks in a row. That was a really stupid bet, man. Those teams are such different caliber teams, and Justin Herbert's really blossoming. You deserve to lose money when you do that. You deserve to have your record hurt when you do that. And if I had potentially won with whatever other pick I would have done there, that's the difference between me being in the green and the red, and that's okay. That's how you learn lessons. But I really should have just come out and said, I'm just picking this because it would be a great story, and it was a stupid pick. It won't happen again. I can't do that. I don't know why. I think I really like a good story. I don't know what it was, but I deserved to lose on that one, and I did take the L on it. And then the last one was just the skins. I don't really, what would I say specifically about that game? It basically was what me and Ted thought it was just two different caliber teams, and the line wasn't set quite right. Jaden's looks like he's starting to, I wouldn't even call it regressing. He just looks like he's starting to hit kind of the rookie bump a little bit. I'd expect him to work his way through it, no problem. He didn't look quite as good. I thought the game should have been a more of a blowout than it was. No regrets there. Anyway, I am down 0.8 units. I am down to Ted's 6.9 units on the year now, and I'm behind Ted two wins in the scoreboard. We will try to get it back this week, but just like Ted had like a negative 6 unit deficit he erased and came all the way back, I have erased a positive 6 unit deficit. Swings, man. There's swings in the season. Still a lot of season left to go, though.
Yeah, we just barely passed the halfway point, right? I mean, there's plenty of time here. But at any rate, let's reveal the Week 10 picks. I'll go first. So for my single bets, I'm going to do the Bears Patriots over 38.5. I'm going with the Cardinals money line, and I'm going with the Dolphins plus 1.5. Then for my parlay, I am doing the Falcons minus 3.5 and the Redskins minus 2.5. I would just like to reiterate to the fans yet again, we do not share these picks beforehand. It just happened to be that I landed on a consensus parlay again, which has gone really well for me. So now I'm really excited that this one's going to come home. If the parlay hits, that returns $345.39. If the 3 single games hit, it returns $583.66. And on a perfect 5-0 week, it will be $929.05. Feeling good about this one. I really want to break out the Burger King crown again. The total ticket cost is $400 because I have the 1-2-leg parlay with the Falcons and Redskins, and still sitting at 6 units in the green. Season record 26-19, just a hair under 60%. We're getting there though. Maybe a 4-1 and 5-0 week, then I can have that over 60% hit rate and feel really good about it.
Yeah. So, like Ted said, we're consensus on the Falcons, on the Skins. I'm taking some bigger numbers this week. I don't necessarily like doing that, but I do feel good about all the matchups here. Taking the Vikings minus 6.5. Niners -6.5 and Eagles -7. In the case of the Eagles, I'm taking a big divisional road dog. Maybe I'll learn my lesson here. I think I'm going to come home though. I am not parlaying anything. I'm trying to make back these units, which means I'm taking on downside risk for the upside. $500 stake, total return 9.29 units or $929. So 5 unit risk, 9.29 return. Negative -0.9 basically. That's where I'm at on the year, and I'm 24 and 21.
All right, and let's get into the game breakdowns. I'll start first with the Patriots going into Chicago to play the Bears. I got the over of 38.5 here. 62% of the money is on the over, and 88% of the bets are on the over. So we're seeing a 62 to 88 split. That means that there's significant whale money playing the under here. Well, we'll start with this, the Drake May factor. It's been one of the most talked about points, I think, on this podcast for the last 3 years. But I really think that it's kind of amazing how this rookie came in and immediately got this offense from a completely broken state to one that actually works sometimes. They had an okay performance against the Titans last week. I think they scored like 20 points and went into overtime. I think that Titans defense is good, though. I would call this Patriots offense at this point like a below average to average unit with Drake May in there at this point with the Drake May running factor, right? So there's things to like, at least I think, from the Patriots here. Next point, Caleb against a bad defense versus Caleb against a good defense. I think this is important to note, right? I've watched a lot of Bears football this year. I kind of got fooled at the beginning, or I guess not the beginning, but midway through the year when Caleb started playing really good football, right? He was scoring me like 25, 20 fantasy points a week. It was feeling good. And then he kind of regressed back to earth. So I was kind of taking a look at like what the Bears seasons looked like, right? When is Caleb playing well and when is he not playing well? And what I've noticed is he's had some of these spike weeks against really bad defenses, right? Like Carolina Panthers, Jacksonville Jaguars. Those are both bottom 5 units in the league. And when Caleb has been playing above average to good defenses, like the Redskins, for example, like man, I don't know. The Cardinals, I guess. I don't even think they're talented, but I think they're schemed well, right? I think there's like a very marketable difference here between Caleb versus a bad defense and Caleb versus a good defense. This Patriots team, they've played well at points. I would still call them a bad defense though. They've had their share of just like offensive explosions against them. So I think we're going to get the Caleb against a bad defense here, which makes me think that the Bears will have some offensive success in this one. Another point, the Bears are undefeated at home. I mean, what is that related to them playing the bad teams at home so far? It could be. Are the Patriots a bad team? I think it's probably safe to say yes, right? They could be more comfortable in their own barn. And when Caleb is comfortable, right, the offense is humming. So this is like another thing I've been harping on so much, right? Like Caleb Williams, ever since the bye, has looked super uncomfortable in the pocket. He's looked rushed. He's been getting just destroyed back there by defensive players. He's running for his life. Plays are dying like before they can even happen because he's just running to escape and keep the play alive, you know? So I think this Patriots pass rush, it's not a top tier unit. I think that it's going to be absolutely on tape and a focus for this Bears team to keep Caleb on his feet and allow these plays to develop. And this is a good defense to do that against in your own building, which only helps, right? And then the last point I want to make, right, is 38.5 is an extremely low number. I've said this before, right? When I look at point spreads or whatever over unders, I would call 40 to 41 points like a neutral point total. I would call anything like 45 and over like a high point total, and I'd call anything under 40 a low point total. So 38 and a half definitely is in the low band, right? So there's not a lot of like respect being given to these offenses. I'm assuming that Drake May is going to be able to move the ball here. This Bears defense is good. Granted, they are very good, but they gave up a ton of rushing yards last week to the Cardinals. That's what this Patriots team wants to do. I think Caleb is going to be a little bit more comfortable in the pocket here and be able to have some success against the Patriots offensively. So I think based on both of those factors, right, if you like both offenses' chances to do something in this game, I thought that betting the over on an extremely low total was better than playing any spread in this game, right? I believe the spread is like Bears -6.5. I don't think the Bears are good enough at this point to be giving up 6.5 points to any team. So I figured we'll play the over here. It feels good. I've only bet one other over this year. It was the Andy Dalton and the Panthers versus the Raiders one. So looking to move it to 2-0 on my over picks this year. What do you think, Yanni? In or out?
Like if I had to bet the over or the under.
Yeah, or just like general feeling on the pick. Do you think this is a bad bet? Whatever, toss up.
I mean, what I would be concerned about from your perspective is that the best path to moving the ball for both these teams might be on the ground. And like the Patriots have shown with Ramondre, they're totally willing to give him 25 carries a game or 25 touches a game if that's what's best for the team. And the Bears have shown with Swift, they will sit there and feed their running game if they have to. So, I mean, I guess I'm not really giving you a firm answer on that, right? But like, I think they're both decent against the pass. It's two rookie quarterbacks. It's two defensive minds that clearly have a really good feel for the game. If there's one thing I trust about both these teams, it's probably that they're I guess with the Patriots, decently coordinated on defense, and then the Bears are well coordinated on defense. So if it becomes like a grindy running game, and isn't it that there was a precipitation chance in this game too, right?
10% rain. So
Okay,
probably not, but it's on the board.
like let's say it becomes Chicago weather, run heavy game. But 38.5, I mean to me like 36.5 is like the I give up number. That's like the number when Vegas is going they're not scoring in here. I think that's the lowest we've seen all year. So you're basically getting the lowest possible point total, which is just it's good value on the pick. I would just be concerned about how rush heavy the game could be. That's the only thing.
Yeah, it's a good point, right? This the Cardinals just absolutely destroyed the Bears last week with Amari DiMercado and James Conner.
Yeah.
So it is a fair point. I did see like if the Patriots and Titans could put up 40 though, I feel I like the Bears a little bit more than that, but we'll see. I really do think it comes down to how Caleb looks here. I think if Caleb plays well, right, there's an argument to be made the Bears can go over 38 and a half. I don't think it's likely, but we'll see how we'll see what happens.
Okay, Vikings at Jaguars. This is one of those big numbers I was talking about taking. It never feels great to take it, but at 6.5, if you're going to take a big number, 6.5, it's kind of the last safe one, right? Because you're basically just saying it's a touchdown. So look, I'm comfortable taking it, and here's why. 92% of the money is on the Vikings against the spread, 84% of the bets. A very miniature whale lean there, but really nothing notable. 16% of the bettors for the Jaguars put 8% of the money in. It's actually not a lean at all. Never mind. So right, this is a whale and a public pick. I'm half asleep, dude. Don't laugh at me. So look, Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is doubtful for this week. Okay, and my feeling is as inspiring as Mac Jones' performance was in the preseason this year. My feeling is that this Vikings team is actually a good team. Now I'm sure Ted will have something to say in response to that. It's kind of been like this meme that we go back and forth about, right? But look, first let's deal with the Jaguars versus the Vikings side. This is the 31st ranked defense in yards allowed versus the Vikings elite skill position players that just got Hawkinson back. They've had time to develop some of those tertiary like targets in the passing game. It looks like their running game's really healthy, and this team hemorrhages yards at a rate only one other team in the NFL is worse than that. I would assume it's the Panthers. And then what you have here is Doug Peterson, who really feels like his offense has peaked, and he's going against Kevin O'Connell and Flores. This is a different caliber of coaching you have on the field. You now have really the only thing, I guess one of the only two things that the Jaguars have going for them is that Trevor can get it going with Ingram and Brian Thomas Jr. Even their run game this year, it looked like they had something figured out with Bigsby, and that sort of dropped off. Really, the only thing this team has had going for him is Trevor's had moments where he's moved the ball up and down the field, and it doesn't even look like they're going to have that. He's doubtful. I doubt he goes this week. Um, and so this is the point. This is the meme about that me and Ted go back and forth about. The Vikings have beaten the 49ers, Texans, and Packers back to back to back, and then they followed that up with losing by 2 points to the Lions on a last second field goal. Um, in my opinion, this is at the minimum a good team, if not a pretty good team. And by pretty good, I mean like might win a playoff game this year in the wild card round. I don't think they're going to win the division. I don't think they're Super Bowl contenders. That's a different caliber of team, right? But I certainly think I would not be surprised at all if we see the Vikings go in somewhere like Atlanta and if they go and beat Atlanta round one. Well, if you're that caliber team and you're playing a team that is 31st in total defense without their starting quarterback, I will take the touchdown here. I don't care if it's on the road. It shouldn't be inclement weather or anything like that, even though the Vikings are a dome team. Um, You also have to think like Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase sort of have this friendly rivalry going. Like, dude, Justin's got to be stoked for this game, right? And he should have absolutely no resistance out there. I think we do get a huge Justin Jefferson game. Um, it's a touchdown against a 2-7 football team, one of the worst defenses in football. Really, really just a mess of a team all around. It feels like they're waiting for someone to put them out of their misery, to get Doug Peterson out there, to turn the chapter, to figure out who their next coach is going to be. Um, it feels like things they're at the end of their run for the Jaguars and their current instantiation, and I think this is what finally puts them down. So very happy to take the Vikings -6.5 here. I don't think this one's going to be a sweat.
Yeah, I think you got a really good one here. Full disclosure, I got my picks in a little bit earlier than Yanni this week, and I didn't know Trevor was out when I was looking at this game. So I was like, man, 6.5 is a big number for Sam Darnold. I'll probably stay away, right? If I had known it was Mac in this game, not only would I have bet this game, I would have felt confident enough to put it in a parlay. I think you absolutely have the right side here. I think this will come home for you. My hesitation, right, is always just been that I think this Vikings team, at least my evaluation of them, is lower than what the market is, right? So when Vegas hangs numbers like this, right, like it's based on the market's evaluation of a team. So when I see
Yeah,
like Sam Darnold is like your quarterback and I see the mistakes that he makes, a lot of times I either don't play the Vikings numbers or I pick against them, right? Because I think I'm getting value on the other side. But I think that Trevor, right? Like Trevor hasn't played good this year by any means, but I think
no,
he's had points where he's at least had the offense working, right? Like they orchestrated the comeback last week against the Eagles or almost comeback, right? So that kind of scared me, but I know Mac Jones can't do that. There's a reason that the Patriots wanted nothing to do with him and he's a backup. I think this is a winner for sure. Whether or not the Vikings are a good team or will win a playoff game, still TBD. I think they might beat the Viking or they might beat the Falcons though if they went into their building. I think I might pick them like just straight up in that matchup. All right, next we got the Falcons going into New Orleans to play the Saints, and me and Yanni are both on the Falcons -3.5 here. The over/under on this game is 46.5 points. 82% of the money is on the Falcons against the spread, and 84% of bets are on the Falcons against the spread here. So this is a free Tendies consensus pick. This is an overall consensus pick of bettors on this line. And we are picking against a home divisional dog yet again. We are not a slave to the trends. It got me a little bit last week on the Saints and Panthers, but at the same time, we made a good pick with going with the Lions over the Packers, right? So we like to respect the trends at times, and I will respect the trends at times, but not here. 3.5 is way too short of a number against what this Saints team is. So the Falcons' high flying offense is going against the Saints defense, which now they've gotten rid of Dennis Allen, who was a defensive mind. Not going to say he was a good head coach, but he did know how to work the defensive side of the ball, right? And the Saints have been averaging over 400 yards allowed over the past month. So I see a Falcons team that's starting to hit its stride on offense, right? And I see just an absolutely floundering Saints defensive side. I think the Falcons are going to be able to kind of do whatever they want here in this one. On the Saints side, right, for their offense, Chris Olave is out, which is like their last remaining like elite piece out wide. Like I think Kamara is still elite. I think he ran for like 170 or something last week, so he's still a good player, right? But when you're missing Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed out there, that really hurts your passing game. So even though Carr is going to be playing, right? At least we're not dealing with Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener anymore. But Derek Carr is going to effectively be throwing to Dick's Sporting Goods Associates and 34-year-old Taysom Hill this week, which is all bad, right? Like, I mean, you look at it like who's out there? Bub Means, Jawan Johnson, Taysom Hill. Like this is practice squad level, bottom of the barrel, third quarter of preseason type of talent. And I don't think Carr is the type of dude that can carry these guys against a Falcons defense that has a lot of players. I would say they're still underperforming like what their talent is, but they still have talent on that side of the ball with Raheem Morris. I think they're going to have a hard time scoring here. So because Dennis Allen is gone, right? There's this trend that kind of goes around the betting community. It's called the dead cat bounce. And what the dead cat bounce is when a team is playing so bad that they fire their head coach. A lot of times the following week, they play some of their best ball or cover, right? If we just look at it this year, Robert Saleh got fired, right? And then the next week, the Jets had a good game against the Bills. Last year, when Josh McDaniels got fired and Antonio Pierce came in, I think they just outright won the next game they played in, right? So this is a trend that a lot of bettors like have focused on before, but I think that was kind of baked into this spread here, right? Only a field goal and like a half a point, I think that's entirely too short, and I'm willing to just throw that trend to the side to fade this iteration of the Saints team and what they have available. So, and then I just want to close on this, right? I think the Saints team might already be in tank mode now that they're down to 2-7 and just lost to Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers. So if they won here, it would just ultimately hurt their draft positioning, right? They got to already be looking ahead to next year. Marshawn Lattimore just got traded to the Redskins, so it looks like they're willing to sell everyone, and the Falcons are fighting to take control of this NFC South. The Buccaneers, I believe they lost 3 of their last 4. They're struggling with their guys out. This is an opportunity for the Falcons, especially knowing the Bucks play the Niners this week to get another game control in their division. I think if they can get up 2 games here and have the head-to-head on the Bucks, they got to be feeling really good about their chances of winning this division and making it to the playoffs. So all of those things considered, important game for the Falcons. Saints team might be tanking. Saints are completely crippled. Falcons are playing good on offense. Everything combined, I think this is an easy one. Falcons -3.5, free Tendies fantasy consensus, and I put it in a parlay. That's how good I feel about it. What do you think, Yanni?
I mean, obviously, I agree with you, right? Because I took the pick. I look, man, I don't know what they're gonna have for the Falcons. I really don't. I was surprised the number was at 3.5. I told you I always do my preliminary scan on the card, and like I pick out. There's usually 2 or 3 games where I'm like, ooh, and then I have to kind of grind through for my last two. This one, I was like, oh my god. Um, yeah, man, I think the Falcons are like a pretty good football team. Same thing I said with the Vikings. I think they're like a better team on paper than the Vikings. Certainly a more talented team. And I don't even really blame. I mean, the Saints have been a mess on a lot of different levels, but like Carr did look good when his guys were out there and when the team was healthy. The team just got so beat. They lost Olave and Shaheed, and that's not a joke about the Dick's Sporting Good Associates. Some of these guys are going to be like door greeters at Dick's within the next 5 years. Like that's going to be their career, used car salesman, whatever you want to call it. They're just not NFL caliber dudes. And yeah, when you're rolling out your practice squad as starting receivers against a team that's gone toe to toe with the Eagles and beat them at the last minute, gone toe to toe with the Chiefs, played in shootouts with the Seahawks, like they've beaten the Tampa Bay twice. They probably had the game of the year in Tampa Bay, right? It's just a different caliber of team. I'm totally comfortable with it. I don't know what Derek's going to have. I think they're going to stack the box and force him to air the ball out if they're going to win the game. Um, yeah, yeah. I don't think they have anything for him. I believe Bijan Robinson is the RB2 in the last 5 or 6 weeks. We're finally getting to see that Bijan that we kind of thought he would be. It looks like he's really like blossoming into the player that they were hoping he could be. He looked a lot like Todd Gurley out there when he's doing his thing. Even if Drake London's out, I do not think that fundamentally changes this game for me at all.
Yeah, this should be a boat race. I think I wouldn't be shocked to see the Falcons up 21-3 at the half, and then just Bijan and Tyler Algier them to death.
And don't forget, like Raheem Morris played. I mean, how many years under Sean McVay? Like 5, 6. He
Mhm.
has seen nothing but the Shanahan coaching scheme for years. How many games has he coordinated against those guys? All of those guys have been in the building together, going back probably 10 or 12 since the last time Raheem was a head coach. Whenever the last time he was a head coach and fired, he went and has been with that tree. He's seen this exact scheme that he will see with guys like Cooper Kupp and Puka Nakua and Debo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, but this time it's Bub Means and Taysom Hill. It's going to be bad. I think it's going to be a bad game.
Bub Mean sounds like he works at the drive-through at Raising Cane's.
It sounds like a Raising Cane's, like the guy that makes the sauce at Raising Cane's. Yeah,
Bub's secret
or like
sauce.
the guy who wins the local catfish tournament. Sounds like yeah. Hey
Professional
man,
noodler Bub Memes.
yeah, professional noodler with that. Yeah, exactly, dude. With that girl, that Hannah girl, the woodworking girl that went viral last year. Yeah, looks like those. They're awesome, man. That's awesome. I have no issue with it. I just don't want Bub Means as my wide receiver one on the week.
All right, we'll move on because we're just gonna bub memes you guys to death.
Just trash, man. And speaking of the NFC South, I try not to bet on the 49ers. I don't like the added stress of my reputation picking games plus the Niners. Plus, it's been a stressful year. Um, I swear to God, dude, the Niners have taken years off my life. There was a really interesting study about fans like have heart attacks when their team's playing. It's actually bad for your life expectancy to be a serious fan of a sports team. And without a doubt, the Niners will be one of the many things that kills me when it's all said and done. But taking the Niners minus 6.5 in this one. 63% of the dollars bet on the Niners have gone on the Niners against the spread, and 54% of the numerical bets. So you actually have a little bit of the bigger money coming in on the Niners side of this thing. Look, CMC returns, man. The emotional boost. I still, who knows, right? You're trying to figure out how that team feels mentally about their season. You have to imagine that the way Fred Warner's been playing football, the way Debo, when he's healthy, hasn't been healthy, but the way Brock's been playing, even the way Mason, Kittle, you have to believe that these stars on this team still feel like they're a Super Bowl contending team, despite all the injuries, despite all the losses, despite how rough this team has gone. I would guess those guys genuinely in their heart believe they're a Super Bowl contending team. And they're all, some of these guys are some of the greatest at their position to ever do it. So when you get CMC back and they look at this like this is their chance to go out there and try to end the year, they played 8 games because of the bye week, right? So they have
Mhm.
9 more games to go on the season. So you have to imagine they're aiming for like 6-3, 7-2, which they've closed out years like this before, right? It has to start here though, and this is probably going to be one of their easiest games down the stretch. This one in the Seahawks game. Look, the Bucks are coming off a short week, and the Niners are coming off a 2 weeks rest. It's one of the best rest differentials in the NFL you'll ever see. Is a Monday night game versus a bye week team. The 49ers traditionally do great off the bye, and they traditionally do great in the second half. I mean, I would say for 4 years running, we've seen them come out of the bye and look totally rejuvenated, totally ready to go. These are veterans that have made multiple deep playoff runs for like a half a decade now. That really adds up on these dudes, which means they get a lot more out of the bye than you would think. There's just a difference. 49ers fans know there's a difference between the well-rested 49ers and the kind of old and slow and tired 49ers. And I would fully anticipate we get the well-rested, ready to go version of them. Also, like Brock Purdy, man, they've been doing some different things in the passing game this year, and they've really changed the offense in a lot of ways. I know Greg Cosell's talked about that. A lot of the film guys on Twitter have talked about that. They're going to recalibrate that even more. Juwan Jennings is back in the fold. I think they have to trust Pearsall at this point as their wide receiver 3, probably coming out of the slot. I feel really good about the direction of the offense. On paper, with the way this Bucks team has played, I think they got overvalued because of how good they looked against the Chiefs, and I think that's a credit to Baker. I think that's a credit to Todd Bowles being an excellent coach. I I mean, maybe the Chiefs were a little bored too. Like, I think they're probably just bored of destroying the whole NFL. I think that factored in here a little bit. Without Mike Evans, without Chris Godwin, this should probably not be under a touchdown spread. And it did get bet down apparently during the week, right? Um, and then just the last thing, this is the definition of a must-win game. That term gets thrown around a little too much. The Niners said we didn't really view the Chiefs as a must-win game. This one is. According to PFF, according to a couple of the other odd sites I was checking this week, it looks like this will swing their chances to make the playoffs. It is either going to be a 66% chance to make the playoffs if they win this, or a 33% chance to make the playoffs if they lose this. That is massive. Like I said, you have Hall of Famers that know their careers and their legacies are on the line here. I fully expect this to be the first ceiling game we see out of the 49ers. And that's kind of a chicken shit call, right? Because they're going against a defense that's let up a lot of you. I mean, I understand that it's a softer defense and you might expect that anyway. But man, I think they're going to look healthier. I think they're going to look integrated. I think we're going to see Pearsall in this thing for the first time. I think the Niners have something in Garendo and Mason behind CMC. I think all the signs are pointing up, and I'm very happy to look 6.5 points, get a touchdown game. Should be really nice weather. I love everything about it. They get Jake Moody back. Very happy to take my 49ers here minus 6.5.
Yeah, man, I think you got another good one here too. The primary reason I did not pick this game is I picked the 49ers twice this year. I'm 0-2 on those picks. And I didn't win a single
Yeah.
Niners pick last year either. I'm
Yeah.
convinced that I am cursed. I am cursed if I pick the 49ers, so I just didn't do it here. But yeah,
Yeah.
man, coming off a bye is huge for this team, right? Like, as Colin Cowherd likes to say, this 49ers team is old in the tooth. Well, yeah, sure. And now they're coming off a bye and getting ready for the Super Bowl run, man. In CMC coming back, I think that the red zone offensive woes are going to feel a lot better with CMC in there, right? Like CMC changed this football team. when he came and when the Niners traded for him, right? Like before they were the Niners are still a good team, right? But they weren't like a juggernaut. Last year was the first full CMC year, and that 49ers team I felt was far and away the most talented team in the NFL and should have won the Super Bowl, right? Like, granted, we're not totally healthy. We're still missing BA, and we're going to miss him for the rest of the year. And then Drake Greenlaw has another couple weeks. Um, Kafunga's still out, but I really like how Malik Mustafa's been playing. So, yeah, man, I really like it, especially with no Godwin or Evans in there. It's going to be if the Buccaneers cover this, it's because Baker plays like amazing football. I like Baker, but I mean, the Niners defense, I could see a couple picks from the guys in the secondary. It should be a good one. I'll be wearing my jersey. Niners really need it, especially to keep up in the NFC West. Turns out that's going to be an absolute dogfight here at the end. All right, next we got the Steelers and the Redskins, and we're both on the Redskins -2.5. Second free Tendies fantasy consensus of the week, and the second leg of my parlay too. Only 30% of the money is on the Redskins against the spread, and 35% of bets are on the Redskins against the spread. So even though it's a consensus of mine and Yanni's, we're fading the public pretty good here. And that's all right with me. I think that everyone in the world is overvaluing the Steelers team just a little bit too much. So we'll start here. How long does this Russell Wilson thing work? Listen, man, the Steelers are 2-0 with him in ball games, right? There's been talk that he actually was the right call, and Fields should have been on the bench the entire time. The Steelers Twitter fandom is saying that Prime Russ is back. So I mean, right now public perception of him is pretty high, but I don't know how much longer it lasts. I still think he's ass, and I think that it's just a matter of time until he looks that way, right? And he's going up against a Redskins defense that is severely undertooled and has had very bad performances at points in the year, but they've also had some good performances over the past month since switching to a single high safety. So I think that with a guy like Dan Quinn, right? Like we're seeing this Redskins undertool side of the ball get a little bit better and better every week. It's kind of like what we're seeing with Jonathan Gannon in Arizona to me. Then another one. It has Najee turned the corner, or is he still slow and bad? This is another thing too. The last 3 weeks, ever since the Raiders game, Najee has kind of turned back the clock and looked like he did during his rookie year. Is this going to be sticky? Right? Is Najee going to be able to look like he has the past couple weeks, or is he just still a slow and bad player? I don't know. I'm more convinced that Najee could be good versus Russ being good, but I still have my doubts about that, to say the least. So just as a whole, right? I don't like the quarterback and I don't like the running back on this football team, which means I really don't like the offense because they don't really have anyone else out wide other than those two, right? Um, for the Redskins, how much does Marshawn Lattimore play? He was the big free agent acquisition at the deadline, easily the biggest name that moved on deadline day. If we're taking out like Amari Cooper and Devontae Adams, like from earlier, so if he gets full run, he should be matched up with George Pickens, who I've said it before. I think George Pickens is a supremely talented player, but Lattimore is a dog that can cover him. And I think that if you can blanket Pickens and if you can shut out Pickens, like you're asking guys like Calvin Austin or newly acquired Mike Williams or Darnell Washington to do the heavy lifting for you. And I just don't see that here. So we'll keep an eye on Lattimore and how many snaps he plays. We're going back to the trends here just for a little bit. Usually Tomlin is a dog against a rookie quarterback has been a good spot to play. Our friend Chad Millman this week on the Action Network said this is the classic rah Tomlin spot. I always, he always says that about Mike Tomlin as an underdog, and there's something to that, right? Like guys like Antonio Pierce, like real team motivators. You know what I mean? Like they have these moments where they kind of get their team up for a big matchup, but you can't always go to the rah buffet. You know what I mean? It's not open every single week. The Steelers are an underdog, and I think that Better saw this trend, right? I think that Better said, okay, I'm getting Tomlin as an underdog against a rookie quarterback on a 6-2 Steelers team, and I think that a lot of bettors went with that, and that's why we're seeing such a majority of the bets on the Steelers here, right? So Jaden's just built different though. He's not your average rookie quarterback. To me, Jaden looks a lot more like CJ did in his first year in terms of being immediately NFL ready than like say a Caleb or say, I don't know, Trevor Lawrence's rookie year. We can go back. A lot of these rookies are not ready for the spot, but Jaden looks like he's ready to go right off the bat. So I'm kind of throwing that rookie quarterback versus Tomlin thing out the window on this one. Another matchup we're going to be keeping our eyes on is Scary Terry versus Joey Porter Jr. I've kind of been on the I've been on record saying I don't think Joey Porter Jr. is that good. I know Yanni definitely thinks differently about that. I think he's like top 12 in coverage metrics this year, isn't he, Yanni? Isn't that what you were saying?
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember exactly. I think he was. I checked a couple weeks ago. Certainly top 20. I think he's top 15. He's been very very good this year.
Okay.
He's been very good. He's been profiling like an alpha corner.
Oh, fact of the matter is he a blossoming alpha corner? Is he playing really well, or is he not? I don't know. It seems like the production is such that he has been so far, but he's going up against Scary Terry this week, who has just been balling out since week 3. It's been awesome to watch. So I think that'll be a huge matchup. See who wins that, right? Is Terry able to burn Joey Porter on like a long streak or whatever, right? Jaden has one of the best deep balls in the league. I think if Terry gets open, he'll be able to hit him. Will Joey Porter be able to slow him down and make Jaden go to guys like Zach Ertz, Noah Brown, Ben Sano, even that sort of thing? I'll just keep my eyes on that matchup. That'll be really interesting. So I'll just close with this too, right? This number was hanging at -3.5 Redskins all week. This was one of the ones that I think we got a lot of value on. Picking later in the week, usually at least the way betting goes, right? You're usually getting the best of the number when you pick early in the week because you're kind of getting there before all of the bets come in, right? So I think that because there are so many trend betters and people looking at the Tomlin underdog rookie quarterback thing, that got bet all the way down to -2.5. And since I was inclined to pick this side and Yanni was inclined to pick this side, we got the best of the number. Now all we need is a field goal to win for what I think is the better team here in the Washington Redskins. So let's roll, baby. This Steelers team is not good, we promise. Might just be my opinion. And I'm going to hammer this with confidence. Also, maybe just my opinion. There, Yanni may or may not have not wanted his name attached to those takes, but I love this pick. Loved it enough to put it in my parlay. It's a consensus of ours, and we performed well on these. So get another W here. Anything I missed?
Yeah, just a quick. It's just 'cause I don't think the Steelers are a bad team. I think they're like I have such wishy-washy takes today. I feel like they're a pretty good team. Like but I don't think they'll win a playoff game this year. I would be that I would actually be shocked about. And then hammer this with confidence. It's more like I'm hammering this, going, I like the number. Redskins are at home. Just a couple quick notes about what switching to the single high actually means for someone like Dan Quinn, dude. He what he wants to do is have his safety play true center field, right? Like let the guy chill, let his other safety go in the box or a linebacker, whatever, and take the tight end man to man. And he wants his corners manned up. And then they're going to have that safety help wherever they need to help. When you go get someone like Marshawn Lattimore, what you're getting him for is so you can put him on the team's number one receiver and go, you're on your own. Figure it. You're on an island. Figure it out. They're going to ask him to press. They're going to ask him to cover 40-yard down the field routes. So I don't know how incorporated he'll be this week. I would assume because defense is so much less connected. Like it's not schemed the same way. You're playing man, you're playing a drop, you're whatever. Um, it's more universal. So I would actually assume he's going to get almost full run this week. And that might really matter, man. If you have Pickens locked up with Lattimore, and they'll do different things, they'll move him around to get him off there or whatever. That's a really big deal for the team. The improvement the team has showed since switching to that single high look and playing man on the outside has really been like noticeable. And that's really when their defense started to turn around, and adding Lattimore to that is such a nice fit. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers move the ball here, primarily on the ground, I would think. But I wouldn't be surprised to see their offense come out and move the ball. But if it comes down to a little bit of a shootout here, I mean, look, the Skins have lost to the Ravens, and then they lost Jaden's debut when the offense looked totally different against Tampa Bay, which Tampa Bay was fully healthy at the time on defense in that game too. Those are two pretty good teams, man. Like I don't think those are bad losses. I think for the most part they've gone in, and when they've played an average or a below average or an above average team, they've handled their business. So if this thing comes down to like both of these teams needing to score a little bit, I imagine it's going to be difficult for the Steelers to pass the ball on them. I imagine Dan Quinn's going to have a really nice plan for Arthur Smith's offense, which is pretty rudimentary. And Cliff Kingsbury's been on fire. Cliff Kingsbury, just like he hit that groove with Kyler Murray when he was a rookie, whatever groove he's in with Jaden Daniels, like the player understands the coach and what he wants out of the scheme, and the coach understands the player and what he can do. And it's this really nice synergy. So I do understand though. I personally I do think there is like a level of risk in this pick. I do. I'm worried about them stopping the rushing game. This is still ultimately not a very talented defense. It's just a defense that's playing inspired football. I think Jaden fundamentally changes the culture. I think firing your dog shit owner fundamentally changes the culture there. It's like it's really you know, it's just it's there's a great momentum to the team, but that doesn't mask the talent issue. So I at least made the pick aware that I think this one will be a sweat. I do. I think so. But you're getting -2.5. And if it comes down to they need to score some points, give me Jaden Daniels and Terry and Eckler and Ertz, and even Noah Brown, who I like as a play. Give me those guys trying to put up points versus giving me Russell with Pickens and Lattimore and Najee trying to win the game. So that's why I made the pick. I'm comfortable with it. I do think it's going to be a tight game.
Yeah, and one other thing to mention that I forgot to mention is that Brian Robinson is going to be out this game, so it will be full Austin Eckler run. And I forgot who that other fellow is, like Carlos Gonzalez or something. I forgot his name, but
Rodriguez, I think, and Jeremy
Christian
McNichols.
Rodriguez, that's what it is, I think.
And Jeremy McNichols. But yeah, dude, Eckler's looked good this year. I thought
Yeah,
Eckler's looked great. Actually, when he's had time, it'd be fine.
yeah. All right, this one's me too. I got the Cardinals money line. The New York Jets are going to Phoenix to play the Cardinals. The over under in this game is 46.5 points. So this was very interesting. I don't think I've ever seen this before on the cash breakdown. So 50% of the money is on the Cardinals money line, and 49% of the money is on the Cardinals against the spread. And then 50% of bets are on the Cardinals money line, and 50% of bets are on the Cardinals against the spread. So I've never seen anything that even before in the 2 years that I've been doing this. So the bettors are completely split, but I have a little bit of conviction here. I think I got the right side here with the Cardinals money line. I think the first question to ask is this Cardinals team good? Are they a good football team? Are they for real? Right now, they're first place in the NFC West. I don't know if many people had that on their bingo card. They've only lost to top tier teams so far in the Bills, Lions, Redskins, and Packers. And they just boat raced the Chicago Bears too in their building. I think last week I picked the Bears to beat the Cardinals in that spot. I was shocked at that result. They just absolutely beat the crap out of them. So when you look at it, right, this Cardinals team might be better than a lot of people are giving them credit for. I think they had kind of low expectations coming into the year. All we really knew is Kyler would be back like full time, right? You add Marvin Harrison Jr. to the lineup, and Marvin Harrison hasn't really even like played his best football yet, really. But this Cardinals team is still on top of the division, right? So I would definitely say they're playing above expectation, and they're on like good team alert for me. On the other side of the ball, the New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers are finally complete now that they have Devontae Adams in the building. But does it really matter at this point? They already fired their head coach. Their record is 3-6, so they're just scratching and clawing to try and get out of the hole they dug themselves. And their defense is playing poorly, right? Sauce Gardner is banged up. He hasn't played as well as he typically does all year. So I'm seeing like even though like Rodgers finally has his guys and they've become the Green Bay Jets, I just don't know. I just don't know if it matters at this point, right? Like, so I still think, and I said this 2 weeks ago, and I stand by this. I don't think the Jets are a very good football team anymore, man. I think that there is a noticeable fall off from Rodgers this year from the MVP years that we've seen him. Um, his last year in Green Bay, right? I think they went like 9-8, missed the playoffs or whatever, and I wrote that off entirely as a talent in Matt Lafleur issue. I said that the Packers were absolutely out of their minds to like get off of Rodgers, right, and hand it over to Love, and I think that's kind of guided a lot of my philosophy around what the Green Bay Packers are and around Aaron Rodgers, right? Like Aaron had the Achilles last year. That's not his fault, you know, like you don't choose when your Achilles tendon goes out. So I was kind of holding on to Aaron Rodgers still being that stud that we've known and loved and I grew up watching, right? Like Aaron Rodgers at his peak, I think there's an argument to be made. He was more talented at his peak than Mahomes, and he had some bad luck only getting one Super Bowl. I think he should have won more, especially on the dominant teams that he's been on, but it's not the same anymore, man. It's just not the same. At least I don't think. And even I'm saying that. I'm like the number one Rodgers guy. So the line is, or the line was Cardinals plus 1.5, right? So I felt good taking the money line here for the Cardinals, doing that thing where I just say keep the exact Cardinals 1 point win. Vegas, I don't care, pay me more. And I feel like this is a good spot to fade a Jets primetime win, right? Like I think that not a lot of people had them beating the Texans on Thursday night last week, and I kind of chalked that performance up to the Texans just being so banged up. So I think it's a good spot to fade them. I think they're a little bit overvalued right now. Taking the money line pays out over 2 to 1. So I'm in. That was enough for me on this week where I must pick five. What do you think, Yanni?
So I explained to you why I did take a long, hard look at this game. I was actually close to pulling the trigger on the Cardinals. They're underdogs at home, and you nailed it with Rodgers. I just don't know, right? Was the Jets offense breaking out last week because Devontae's now fully integrated and Aaron and Devontae are back on the same page and Wilson's going to get to eat on that, single coverage, and uh, is it totally legit? Are they going to be the offense we would imagine on paper they would be if Rodgers was even 70% of his old self? I really couldn't tell you, man. So I have no idea if they're going to go out this week and put up 42 points. They might. If they're could you imagine 3 or 4 years ago if you had said, or whatever, whenever Brees Hall was a rookie, if you had said we're going to have Brees Hall, Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers, and Garrett Wilson on the same roster? So it's like, to me, I had some trepidation about going, well, it's an indoor game too. Like, old man Aaron's going to be nice and comfy. He doesn't get to play indoors in heat very often, or a partially indoor stadium, whatever. Um, so there were just enough factors in it that I didn't know. I also think the Cardinals have been like sort of a covert run first team this year. They almost are, like, it looks like it's an Arthur Smith coordinated offense or something, where I think that's what they fundamentally want to do right now. I think Kyler's been too up and down. I think Marvin Harrison hasn't been able to handle the like true X receiver workload they put on him. So a lot of how they've kind of made their hay this year has been on the ground. And can they sit there and grind the Jets down like they did last week with the Bears? Are the Jets going to get tired and give up like the Bears? This is a must-win game for the Jets if they're going to stay competitive in the playoffs. Have the Cardinals been playing a little bit above their skis? Like, have they been sort of outperforming their roster defensively? And does it show up this week? There were just enough things that I didn't want to touch it. But if I had to bet on it, and again, I actually almost did, I would have bet the Cardinals at 1.5. So
Yeah,
I
I,
like it.
I I think that all your points are fair, right? Like with Devontae and Garrett Wilson, I still think those are both elite players. I think Brees Hall is awesome. This is a fade Aaron Rodgers bet, which is funny because earlier this year I've literally said I'm making this bet because of Aaron Rodgers. Now I am making this bet exclusively to fade him, right? I think you're onto something though, with the Cardinals being a run first team. I think they are, and I think they've shown they can run the ball effectively with James Conner. I definitely like the Bears defense more than the Jets, right? So I would be shocked if they can't establish some ground and pound consistent running game here, but we'll see. I feel good about this one, and it'll be good cheering with the Arizona Bayhams for once. I don't think I've bet on the Cardinals at all this year. First time.
Dude, James Conner has something insane. Like, I want to say he has 57 or 61 forced missed tackles this year, and the next closest is like 32. He's old. He's taken heavy workload seasons, and he is just an animal. I really like James Conner. He's not a flashy guy. He's not, a stud guy or whatever. But like, that guy's a football player. He's so yeah. If there's anyone that's going to do it right, go in there and then take a beating and put the team on his back. He's certainly done that this year.
Yeah.
So. Okay, Eagles at Cowboys. Never a great feeling. Never a great feeling betting on a divisional, away opponent by 7, and never a great feeling when their head coach. I give Antonio Pierce a lot of shit, like, for being a meathead. Nick Sirianni's a meathead, except he didn't play middle linebacker in the NFL. So he's like a meathead just because he's an Italian dude. Like, he grew up in like a loud family or something. That's a lot less respectable than if you want to be a meathead because you tackled other 300-pound men to the ground for a living. I totally respect that. I think you have a right to do that. I'm curious where Nick Sirianni derives his sense of I don't know, masculinity from. That guy's to me, that's like he's Antonio Pierce without the appealing qualities. That's kind of how I view him as a person. I know Ted will disagree with that. So it never feels good, right? I'm taking him by 7 on the road at the Cowboys here. But look, both the public and the whales agree with me. 79% of the money on him, 80% of the bets. I mean, that's a pretty strong consensus from both numerical bets and big bets or whatever. I guess it's basically on par, right? So taking a consensus with the community and with the bigger spenders, Dak is out. Cooper Rush is starting. CeeDee Lamb is almost certainly going to be at 100, under 100%. Normally, he would have missed 2 to 3 weeks, from my understanding of, or at least what I was seeing doctors saying on Twitter about the injury. So I would imagine he's going to try to play. Once you get that contract, the pressure's kind of on you. You have to show up for your team, and I totally respect that. I just don't see how he's playing at 100% here. Um, we've seen Cooper Rush play with a significantly different caliber team, a caliber of team that was contending for first place in their division, that was trying to get home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Are these Cowboys that team? I simply don't think so. Dan Quinn leaving seems to have really impacted the defense. I don't know why they weren't in the market for one of these big running backs that moved around this offseason. They weren't, although Dowdles looked very good. They don't really have a clear number 2 behind CD. And Cooper Rush is a guy. He's the classic, just a guy. He's a backup quarterback. He'll come in and do okay. But I think we have to acknowledge that this Eagles team, when they're healthy, with the coordinators they went and got, is a totally different animal. I was wondering if the championship in the NFC this year, I'd sort of faded the Niners a little bit. I thought they were getting older. I wondered if it wasn't going to be the Eagles, the Rams, and the Lions when it all came down to it. And, the Rams, their defense just isn't there. But this Eagles team has been everything they were built to be. Kellen Moore is a fantastic offensive mind. He's actually one of my favorite coordinators in the game, even though he's sort of not considered a head coach candidate, but I really like what he does. And it seems to have jived really well with the Eagles offensive pieces. And then Vic Fangio, we all know what that is. Highest paid defensive coordinator in the sport, and for good reason. He earns every penny of it. And he looks like he's gotten his guys on the same page. And the rookies are coming along. And the second year guys that got banged up last year are coming along. I think these Eagles are in an incredible spot. AJ Brown was potentially going to miss. He's in. I don't think Micah's playing. I would be shocked if Micah's playing. I didn't look up Dexter Lawrence, but I don't think he's playing. I think they would have said if he's coming back. And at this point, why would they rush them back? The team's done. They're done, dead. They're playing for a good draft position at this point. So the Cowboys have been awful in big games at home this year. They have not had much of a home field advantage, at least on the field. And this is probably the worst Cowboys roster. I'm trying to think. I mean, it has to be the pre-Tony Romo era Cowboys. I can't think of the last time I saw a Cowboys roster that was this bad. Maybe I'm missing some time in there, but Tony came in with like Marion Barber and Des Bryant, if I recall correctly, and Jason Witten, and then Tony passed the torch to Dak. So to me, this is the worst Cowboys team in how long? 10 years, 12 years, 15 years. I don't know why it was 7. 7 was a surprising number to me. I would think it should be 9.5, 8.5, maybe 11. So I was happy to take this. I'm totally happy to take the number. The over-under at 43, the Eagles might put up 38 in here. And Nick Sirianni's a spiteful human being. He's a turd of a human being. He likes being, he's like that, the guy that flips you off in traffic and then just drives away and you're enraged. You can't do anything about it. Nick Sirianni is like the perpetual middle finger on the freeway. That's like what he is as a human being. He's the human embodiment of that feeling to me. And so, yeah, like, dude, if he has a chance to blow out his division rivals that won the division last year and relegated them to a road playoff game where they got spanked, yeah, he's going to run up the score here. I was shocked Ted didn't pick this. I was shocked the number was at 7. I'm shocked that the fucking money on it's only 8. Sorry for the swearing. It's only 80-80. Yeah, all day. Give me the Eagles. Easy money.
Yeah, man. I think that Nick Sirianni will get disrespectful here, if given the opportunity. There's 2 main reasons why I did not pick this game. One of which is that you picked such a huge divisional favorite, right? Road divisional favorite. Like, I'm not a slave to the home divisional dog trend that we keep bringing up, but I have a little bit more respect for it when it's a big number like that. And the second reason I didn't pick it is just because of, like, the weird spots that Nick Sirianni has put his football team in, whether it's not going for a field goal when they should have done that, or I don't know, going for a tush push and getting stopped or whatever. Like there's just been enough situational football from Sirianni and the home divisional dog thing where I wasn't comfortable laying the 7. I think that blowout is absolutely on the board here. Like, if Saquon gets going against this undersized Cowboys defense, how are they supposed to stop him, right? I think this Eagles team is probably closer to the Lions in terms of like what they're doing on the offensive side of the ball. They will just beat you up on the ground. They have the guys on the outside. Jalen is a little bit, I don't know, like he's not the type of quarterback that Jared Goff is, where he likes to sit in the pocket and just deliver the ball, but he makes plays happen with his legs. So like by everything that's logical, right? I think you're on the right side here. I just stayed away from it because of the trends. So even though I'm not a slave to the trends, sometimes I will respect them. I'm respecting this one, but I would not be shocked if this came home for you. All right, last one, and this is the Monday night game. The Dolphins are going into LA to play the Rams, and I'm taking the Dolphins plus 1.5. More on that specific pick in a minute. The over/under in this game is 49.5, so Vegas thinks there's going to be a lot of points here. Only 36% of the money is on the Dolphins against the spread, and 41% of bets are on the Dolphins against the spread. So I mean, I would say that I'm lightly fading the public, like just a little bit. I don't think that 36 and 41 are like major numbers, but it's enough to be like this is kind of a fade the public pick here. So we'll start with Tua being back, right, and what he does for the Dolphins offense. Tua, I don't think he's a great player by any stretch, right? But he does something for this Dolphins team that the backups are just not able to do, and that is run Mike McDaniel's system, which is predicated on making reads and delivering the ball quickly and on time, on schedule. So because of that, we've seen the Dolphins offense just completely turn around. It's a total 180, and they're going up against a Rams defense that's really not good. They're 23rd in yards allowed, 23rd against the pass, and 24th against the rush. So I think that Tua and this Dolphins team will definitely have success offensively here. The Rams are coming off a huge win on Sunday, the overtime win against the Seahawks. Were you impressed by that? I just want to ask the audience, were you impressed by that Rams win, that 26-20 win over the Seahawks? Because I was not at all. I think that the Rams, at least where I had them pegged in that game, is with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nakua on that offense. I thought they were going to score at will on that terrible Seahawks defense. They didn't do that. I get that Puka went out in the first quarter, but I was shocked to see the lack of offensive output there. I thought that the Rams are a top 7 to 5 team in the NFL with those two guys in there. So to me, I'm not viewing the Rams as like an elite offense at this point. I think they're well coached. They have a great quarterback and they have two weapons, but I just can't get in on that. I can't unsee what I saw against the Seahawks team. I thought they should have run out of the building on Sunday. Um, just back to the Tua thing, right? The Dolphins are averaging 383 yards a game when Tua plays the entire time and isn't getting concussed halfway through the game. And all three of the games that Tua has played have gone to the exact last play. There was week one against the Jaguars. Dolphins kick a game winning field goal in the closing seconds. There was week 8 against the Cardinals where the Dolphins led for the majority of the game. They ended up giving up a couple touchdown drives near the end. Cardinals beat them at the last second on a field goal. And there was last week against the Bills, another really highly competitive game, right? I think the Dolphins played better than a lot of people thought they would. They lost on a last second 61 yarder from Tyler Bass. So all indications to me are that this is going to be a really close matchup between two good offenses and kind of either average to below average defenses. Oh, here's another one. How is Trump winning the presidential election going to affect this matchup? I know Tua is a huge Trump fella. He's got to be riding high. I know when the reporters asked him if he was going to wear a Guardian cap, he said no. I wouldn't be shocked to see a Guardian cap with a big old MAGA sign on the side of it for Tua. He's got to be riding an emotional high here. If you're looking at player props, go for the Tua passing over. Then I want to touch on this. This is be my last point of the week for the show. Why didn't I give away the point and bet the Dolphins money line in this spot? all year I've been telling you guys when you like an underdog that's a short underdog like this, that you want to give away the point and get a little bit more money on your bet, right? The only situation me taking the Dolphins by exactly 1.5 points dogs, I only win if the Rams win by exactly 1 point, right? Like, so I'm not getting much perceived value here. But the reason I did this is the Dolphins have just looked weird all year, right? Like they look completely broken without Tua in there. And then with Tua in there, even though parts of their team have worked, they've just done this weird stuff to blow games, right? So I think this is going to be a really, really close game. I think this will be a great watch on Monday night with two good offenses. I, I, it wouldn't shock me if the Rams are somehow, especially with the Rams have come back too in games, right? Like the Rams have had multiple come from behind victories this year. It wouldn't shock me to see the Dolphins thoroughly outplay this Rams team the entire time and the Rams get a last second field goal to win in the very, very final seconds of the game. So I thought this 1 point that I'm buying insurance on the Dolphins might be worth a little bit here. Not saying that's going to be the exact outcome. That's an insane level of accuracy to do that. But I just got a feeling on this one that it might be a little bit more beneficial to keep the point in this specific circumstance. I think like the money back or whatever, it was at minus 102 if I had bet the money line. So I wouldn't even be making 2-1. So that was kind of like more a math plus a little bit superstitious play there, but that's why I did that. In general, though, I would say when you see these numbers, just give away the point, but we'll see if it matters here. What are your thoughts on this one, Yanni?
I mean, I think based on your reasoning, right, what you said makes sense. It just depends. Do you consider the Rams a good team or not? I think you and I have been on consensus on this, right? When the Dolphins play like well above average teams, they lose the game. If they're playing average to below average teams, very good chance they win. In fact, very good chance they blow out teams. So I think without a doubt they're playing a very bad defense. So to me it just depends on your appraisal of Matt Stafford and the Rams as an offense. Um, yeah, if you rate the Rams as a below average team, history tells us Tua and the Dolphins are going to beat them up. Tons of familiarity between the schemes for the two defensive coordinators here. They go against these schemes in practice every day. And just, what I would be worried about from your perspective is just we have seen the Dolphins when they get in, when they move up the division in the old weight class, right? You see them start to have some trouble when they start to reach those ranked fighters, those top 10 guys or whatever it is, and I just don't know about the Rams. So I to me, that's really it. I do think the Dolphins defense is significantly better than the Rams. So if the Dolphins defense can just give them 2 or 3 stops this game, I think this one comes home pretty easily. Uh, I didn't know if they could do that. I did kind of look at this game more so because I was looking at the over. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think it's gonna be fine. I think you're gonna be uncomfortable all game. I think if they win it, it's gonna be a touchdown in the last 3 minutes. I think you're gonna be sweating.
I
We'll
don't
see.
see any outcome where this is not a sweat. One thing I can't believe I didn't put this on the slides. I should have, but when I was watching, because I had a bet on the Rams last week, right? When I was watching Jackson Smith-Njigba just destroy this Rams secondary, and then I've seen guys like
Yeah,
Jawan Jennings have career games against this Rams secondary. Like, if
yeah,
Tua is playing well, what is Tyreek gonna do to these guys? You know what I mean? Like, that was a huge part. I think that it'll be a huge Tua, Tyreek, Jalen Waddle game. I think that like all of those highly drafted Dolphins guys that you were disappointed to have in fantasy while Tua was out, I think this is going to be a huge spot for him against a defense that I just think is too
yeah.
young. They need. I think the Rams need like 1 or 2 more drafts. At least to be
Yep.
taken care of on the defensive side of the ball. It's a tough spot for them though, because Stafford is like only got 1 or 2 years left anyways. So we'll see. But anyways, that's going to do it for us. If you made it through the whole video, thank you. Please like, subscribe, hit the bell. It really helps the channel out. Question of the week for the fans. Do you have one, Yanni?
I've done the last few. I was going to let you do it, but I guess is should the Eagles fire Nick Sirianni and keep their coordinators, or should they at the end of this year, if they're facing leaving with the coordinators leaving, do you think they should stick with Nick Sirianni yet again? They have passed up on Steichen. They've passed up on Gannon. Are they going to let Kellen Moore and And Vic Fangio will never be head coach again. Are they going to let Kellen Moore walk this year? Should they? Should they? Should the Lions let Ben Johnson walk?
I guess I'm a Sirianni fan because I would say keep him, but I know that's
You would
probably not public sentiment.
over Steichen? Would you rather have him over Steichen for the next
No,
3 years?
I would obviously rather have Steichen, but I just don't
What
think they
about
could have. What about who?
what about Gannon? They let Steichen and Gannon go for
I don't know
Sirianni.
about Gannon. I think that I still need to see like I still need to see the Cardinals continue to be good, right? Because the last year with Gannon was such a shit show, you know. But
I just think it's an interesting thing to think about is Nick Sirianni going to be the thing that undoes the Eagles? He effed me on that bet last week, man. The reason I lost that bet is because of Sirianni, and I'm riding with him again this week. And like, if they lose in the playoffs, do you know why it's going to be? It's because of a stupid head coaching call, because of a meathead head coaching. So I'm curious. Maybe the market's higher on him than I am. Maybe I'm being silly. His winning record, I mean, his record the first few seasons is immaculate, and
I
he's like a
think
funny guy.
if you're the Eagles and Bill Belichick will come to your football team, you do whatever to get him in the building, I think. But at any rate, we will catch you guys next week for the head coach episode.
Thanks, guys.